Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, and decorate. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast. I'm Stephanie, and this is episode 65 of season 3, and it is originally publishing on March 4th, 2021. I can't believe we're already in March of 2021. It is bizarre, but you know what? I say this about every year. I just feel like, seems like the older I get, the faster time goes. I just remember back when being a kid, and especially in the summertime when you're out of school and just like the days seemed to go on forever and things were just a lot slower. Sometimes as a kid, you kind of wished that things like the night before Christmas, we were always like, oh, we can't sleep. We can't wait till Christmas morning comes. But yeah, now it's just like we want to be like, oh, let's slow it all down. Slow it down. Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh. So this month, also later in the month, I will be turning the big 5-0. Yes. That is just, my mind can't even comprehend it. It's weird. It's just bizarre. So yeah, that's coming up. Oh man. Yeah. So my birthday is on March 25th. And this makes me think of another thing too. You know how the day that you're born in the month, when you reach that age, it's like your golden year. Well, my golden year was age 25. It was just so perfect. And when I turned 25, I told myself, I'm like, oh, I want time to stop because this is the age I would love to be forever. And it's weird. I still remember thinking that and when I turned 25. But when I turned 40, I was good. But that's also the time where I determined, and I told my husband, every big O birthday, I want to travel. I want to be somewhere. And that way, it helps me to look forward to it more and kind of makes you feel like you're really relishing, every second of your life. But this year, that's not going to be the case. Nope. But my husband told me that we will, celebrate it once we can travel. So who knows? I might be 51 by the time we can do that for real. But I mean, I'm good with just even going on road trips. I really I want to see some of the big national parks. I have never been to Yellowstone. I don't think the redwood forests in Northern California is considered national park. I'm not sure, but I've been there and they were absolutely stunning and my favorite tree of all time, redwoods. But yeah, I haven't been to the Grand Canyon. I haven't been to the one in Southern California. I forget the name of it. It's the one with that one sheer face mountain that people love to climb, El Capitan, that one. Yeah. So there's just a lot of them. I am digressing so much, but anyway. Yeah, that's what's on my mind this month is turning the big 5-0. Oh my gosh, you guys have to kind of talk me down. I know. All this time and every year, I'm just trying to be oh, you gotta enjoy every year that your age and don't get depressed and stuff. But for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's because of COVID, and the pandemic as well, but I have been fighting this overwhelming doom and depression of turning 5-0, which is unlike me normally. So I don't know. Those of you who have turned the 5-0, maybe you guys can just tell me it's all okay. In fact, it's going to be great. I would really appreciate that. All right. So, before I forget, I just want to say thank you to, I got a new review on iTunes from it's a username, so it's all kind of like shortened up or whatever, but it's Karen B, no, Karen Bu. Um, so thank you so much for putting a review, and she talked about my previous episode where I talked about chalk paint. And so I'm really happy that you enjoyed that episode, and I'm really so happy that you took the time to write a review. So if anyone wants to do that, just go onto your Apple Podcasts app and enter a review for the Make and Decorate podcast. It helps me to become more visible to people who are looking for a podcast like this one. And I do like a lot of the podcast is about quilting. And I realized that Make and Decorate is not going to really pop up if someone types in, I'm searching for quilt shows. So anyway, it really helps. And thank you so much to the patrons from my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/make and decorate. So you can check that out. Every month, the patrons get a bonus episode. And lots of times, if my guests agree to it, they will continue talking with me. And they like to give a little bit more, like behind the scenes or special extra content for Patreon patrons. So I have a new patron, Katie. So welcome and thank you. Thank you so much. So just a quick update. Last episode, I talked about a quilt I made fairly quickly for me in 9 days, this pixelated heart quilt. There's a link to the pattern on the show notes. It's a free pattern on the Robert Kaufman website. So I gifted it this past Monday, and he really, really liked it. And he especially liked that it was a heart motif on the quilt because of, he just had his open heart surgery. So I wanted to tell you about the quilt label that I made for this quilt. And because, I was doing this in a short amount of time, there was no time to hand embroider or even machine embroider. So I have heat transfer vinyl in printable sheets. And so on your computer, you can make a quilt label and print it on this heat transfer vinyl from your printer. It could be in color, and I even put like a little graphic in there of like little EKG lines attached to a heart. It's really cute. And then I put a little text on there saying that the beat goes on, Open Heart Warrior. So I like the way that the label turned out, but it was very fast to make this label. So you print it out on this heat transfer vinyl, which is paper backed, and then all you do is iron it onto your fabric that is going to be the label. Turned out really well. Now, it does have a laminated feel to it because, it is vinyl. But it's transparent vinyl. So whatever prints on it is opaque, and then everything else is just kind of like you see the fabric behind the transparent background. So if you're looking for a way to make quilt labels that look really, really nice, but don't take any time really to make, this is a good idea to use. So I will put a link to what I got. I think I did get it on Amazon. So it's just a little pack of heat transfer vinyl printer paper. Okay. So this episode is about QuiltCon 2021, my recap, and it is my first time attending a QuiltCon show ever. I know it's not the same as being in real life, but it was still amazing and wonderful to me. It was a great experience, and I still felt the vibe and the energy in the lectures, and people, there's always a little chat room for the attendees to chat away with each other. You could always also, there's another tab for questions if you wanted to ask the lecturer or the instructor questions. And I signed up for several lectures. I didn't do the whole lecture pass. I'm glad I didn't because it was a lot. There was a lot of like information consumption for me, and by the end of QuiltCon, I was like spent. I was feeling it. I was so just exhausted mentally, and I don't know, physically, but not really. It just felt like I was. But yeah, the vibe and the energy was there, and I really enjoyed it. I learned also too that if I were to attend in person, I would not sign up for 6 classes. So they take a lot of time and energy, and again with that mental, like you're feeling like your brain is going to combust. But it was perfect for doing this virtually. And quite frankly, I have taken classes not from QuiltCon but from the International Sewing Expo shows, and in-person classes. I've taken, so I can compare like in-person classes to these virtual ones. And I actually prefer the virtual classes because you get a front row seat no matter what. And you can see exactly what the instructor is presenting. You can pause, you can rewind, fast forward, whatever. And I think that I just retain more and get more out of the online virtual classes versus like the in-person, because sometimes even too, it can get really chatty in there and it's fun. So, like when you break out and you start working on stuff that the instructor just kind of showed, and, go ahead and work on this part or whatever, you can get to chatting and chit-chatting and whatever, and then stuff that really doesn't get done. And so that's why I really like the virtual classes. It may just be me, but I prefer those. But I prefer the socialization and the quilt show and the vendors in person. So that's my take on it. And the other thing with these virtual classes that I took, I didn't want unfinished projects. I didn't want more projects to be put into a box and out of sight. So this was also good because I'm almost done with all of those projects. So I'll talk about those a little bit later. And the other reason why I probably would take fewer classes is that I now understand why people say they go there not to take like so many classes, and some people don't even take any classes, but they just like to socialize and to meet up with their friends and meet new friends and see all the quilts in the quilt show. So I sort of got that this time, even though I wasn't physically there. Just the pace of the schedule and stuff like that, I could see that you really kind of needed to create a balance of your free time and the time that you have to take a look at the quilt show, to look at the vendors, and also the classes. But I just I still am glad that I did the 6 classes. Just because the opportunity to take classes from some of these instructors is it might be rare. And so I really wanted to take advantage of what was there. And since I had never been to a QuiltCon before, that's why I kind of loaded up on the classes, especially since I didn't have to travel, pay for travel and lodging and that sort of thing. So let's start with this recap. So the virtual QuiltCon started on Wednesday night. They did an award ceremony, and I did not watch that live. So I started everything on Thursday morning, and it officially ended, I believe, Sunday or Monday. But things really wound down around Sunday-ish. What I enjoyed is that they did keep the accessibility to the lectures and classes through Wednesday, the 24th. So that I actually thought was great, and I really needed it because I did go back and rewatch some of those, and so I thought that was great. And the other thing is, so the lectures were done at specific times, and they were, I think they were live. If they weren't live, then they were pre-recorded, like with all the people on the panels. But I think they were live. And so the first day, I missed the first lecture. I was like, so, I couldn't believe it. I logged in, and I'm like, wait, why are they saying goodbye? Why are they finishing up here? I'm looking at the time, and I totally got the times mixed up because they only published the times for everything in East Coast Standard Time. I'm in Central. So 8 a.m. means 7 a.m. in my time. But fortunately, someone, because I posted that on Instagram, and one of my friends said, you'll still be able to rewatch it later. So I was like, whew, thank goodness. Because I was really bummed at first. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I missed that. But I was able to see everything, and it was great. And I went into my calendar, changed all of my classes. Well, here's what I did. So and I'm glad I did this, because with this kind of QuiltCon and virtual, all of the classes are made available the very first day. It's up to you to determine when you're going to watch them and when you're taking these classes. And it's up to you how many you take in a single day. So I, ahead of time, scheduled out. So on Thursday, I'm taking these classes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I spread them out accordingly, and it worked out really well. And in addition to that, Hobbs Batting popped up with a Zoom webinar. So I hopped onto that, and I did that on one of the days. So I kind of fit that in between classes, but it went over. So I sort of went, it infringed on one of my class times, but that was okay because I could just start the class whenever I could. And I have to say, that batting webinar was excellent. I learned everything and then some that you would ever need to know about any kind of batting available to you out there. And it's something that I've been trying to learn and to kind of get a mastery of, I guess you could say. And this did it. I learned what battings are better for hand quilting, machine, the different types of fabrics that you use, outside of the batting, like on your quilt tops and backs. So it was really good. So if you ever have a chance to take a batting lecture or webinar from Hobbs, I would definitely recommend that. All right, so I'm just going to go over some highlights of some of the classes that they blew my mind, and I loved them so much. And the one of them, it was by Yvonne Fuchs, and she was a guest on my show this past fall. So go back and listen to that episode if you didn't listen to it yet. Yeah, she taught a few classes in QuiltCon, and I wish I could have taken them all. She is an excellent instructor. And I took her quilt design class, and it was so great. And by the end of that class, I had designed a quilt in a 10-minute segment. Like, she had like these exercises for us, and they were all 10 minutes apiece. And so, and they were all like different, like, types of environments that you could design quilts in. And, people work in different ways in different environments. Some people like to work in total silence. Some people like music. Some people like to draw things out on pencil and paper, and others like to do it directly on the computer. I mean, it was pretty a vast topic, and the way that she funneled it down into digestible blocks was amazing. I learned so much, and I was just so happy that it was a mini quilt. It's good, and I actually am going to make this quilt. So I think it was like a 24-inch square, and it's going to be a wall hanging quilt, and I did it. I made it like an impressionistic looking quilt of the Monet Giverny garden. I love that. I love that garden, and I love Monet, and I love impressionist artwork. So I know it's not very modern of me, but I don't, quite honestly, here's another diversion here. I'm really not like a full-on modern quilter. I'm not modern in interior design, and I'm not modern in quilting, but I am not like super traditional either. I like elements of both, and I'm in between, and I like, modern color palettes and fabrics. But anyway, so this was a way that I made a modern quilt with more of a traditional motif. So yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed that class. And if you ever have the opportunity to take a class from Yvonne Fuchs, you should hop onto that. And then another class, Boro mending. And this class was taught by Sandra Johnson, and she also was on my podcast last fall. And she is such a fun person. I also saw her on one of the panel lectures on quilting. And I saw one of her, she went live on Instagram during QuiltCon. She's just so much fun and bubbly, and I love that from her. And her Boro mending class was good. It was, just very casual, and just many ways to do this. And she encouraged you to do what you want. She showed like the different techniques, but you can take it and run with it. And I loved that. So we did Boro mending on a pair of jeans. So I'm just about done with mine. I mean, that's the other thing. You have to kind of like determine when to stop, when to stop stitching. But that was a great one. And here I took a software class, Illustrator 2, and it was so great. Daisy Ashkatag, I think that's how you say her name. Also an excellent instructor. And it was very fast paced, but it had a lot of information in it. And I really prefer it that way on a virtual, like when you're watching it virtually, because even though it's going fast paced, you can pause it, catch up, and then restart again. And so I really appreciated all of the information that she packed into that class. And I've watched a lot of Illustrator tutorials on YouTube. I've even taken some classes on Skillshare, but they're all geared toward graphic design and not towards quilting and making quilt patterns. This one was specifically geared towards making quilt patterns, and it was amazing. It was so, so amazing. So highly recommend that class as well. So there's other classes I took. Here, I'll just talk about one other one too. I did 2 Boro classes, but they were totally different. And so I thought that was awesome too, because I wasn't sure what to expect. But my mega class, like there were mini classes, all these classes I took were mini except for this one, Boro inspired slow stitching with Blair Stalker. Excellent instructor. I really enjoyed her teaching style, and I learned a lot because of her teaching style. And she goes through the process and she makes a Boro quilt. She was making it's a quilt top, but it was going to become a pillow. So her size was about 20 by 20, and you could have made a throw size quilt top as well. But I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to finish the projects. So I wanted to make a wall hanging, and I decided I wanted it to be around 20 inches wide by 30 inches long. So like a rectangle. And so she had a really good overhead camera, and she had a very calm, kind of zen, peaceful way about her. And whereas some of the other classes were like fast and furious, this one I just felt like just very peaceful and calm, and it was very like, I don't know, like I went to the quilt class spa. It was just really good. And so I got the actual quilt top done, but the Boro inspired slow stitching class, you learned how to make the quilt top, which is all improv. And that's even a bit challenging for me. But by the time I was done with it, I started off being like total me, and I was writing out dimensions of the pieces that were going to get put together and stuff. And so thank goodness you could go back and rewatch these classes. So I went back and rewatched because I'm like, this is taking me forever. And it's like so hard. I went back and rewatched, and the improv of it was that nothing was definitive. You just kind of eyeballed and the shapes, and then you basically just cut straight edges so that they could be sewn together. Then I kind of like the light bulb went off the second time I watched it, and then I was able to finish because I only had like maybe a third of the quilt done. And then I did the rest of the quilt top in the same amount of time that it took me to do like a third of it. So really good. It was really, really good. So there's layers of this though, and I really love it. So you put together the quilt top with a machine, and then you hand stitch your Boro patches on top, and then there's big stitch hand quilting at the end. So I haven't gotten to that part yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. And again, if you can ever take a class from Blair Stalker, I would do that. She's really a very excellent teacher. And especially if you want like a really calm Zen environment, that's the way to go. All right. So I'll talk a little bit about the lectures. Again, I signed up for maybe about the six or seven of these, and I was really pleased with every single one of them. I kind of like got a mixture of topics, so I wanted to diversify it because there were several maybe in a single topic. But so Mary Fons did an excellent one on the world quilts. From the International Quilt Museum. very, very interesting and very well presented. Um, this one I was really looking forward to, and it did not disappoint. It was the 10 Things Judges Wish You Knew. And I don't remember I don't remember the lecturer's name, but I think this is what she said. I think there's only like 55 certified quilt judges in the United States, and she is one of them. If I'm wrong, you can totally correct me, but I'm just going on memory of this right now. But I will tell you, one of the biggest things that I did learn, you may already know this, but I didn't, is that quilt judges all look for one of these things, and that is full binding. So if you have a binding and there's like, space in there, and it goes flat or whatever, then that's not good. So you want your binding to be stuffed like a pillow. And so that was good. That was revealing. And then one more thing. Everybody says, or not everybody, but I hear this a lot, that if you put your quilt in a show, a juried show, you have to hand bind it. And this quilt judge says that's not necessarily true. It could be machine bound. It really is more about the, perfection of it. And that's just, if you're going to enter your quilt into a show, that's what it's about. So, you want to make sure you have, perfect 90-degree corners and mitered corners and all that stuff. So, and if you're going to do, I guess, machine binding, then you got to make sure that machine binding is pretty good. Very interesting. I really enjoyed it. And the Best in Show interview was great. I really enjoyed it. The person who won the show, her name is Emily Trahan. I think she's Canadian, and she was just so pleasant, and it's just amazing to see how other quilters how they approach quilt design and how they work. And I just loved her design and her style, because she does a lot of organic shapes and stuff. And I am a big on curves. I do like curves in sewing and quilting a lot. And in design, actually. I enjoy organic shapes, and she had that in her quilts, and it was just really good. So if you have a chance to look at, I don't know where they've posted. I'm sure the Modern Quilt Guild has it posted, the Best in Show. All right, I just looked it up, and it is posted at quiltcon.com. I'll put a link to it, because there's a page where they post all of the winners in all of the categories. And also a big congratulations to Yvonne Fuchs. She won first place in use of negative space. Another lecture that I really liked was the panel of different quilting perspectives. So they had a long arm quilter on it. They had a couple of hand quilters and a machine quilter. Krista Watson was on there, giving her perspective of machine quilting on a domestic sewing machine. And Sandra Johnson was on this panel too, for hand quilting. And then there was a long arm quilter. Sorry, I forgot her name. And the other hand quilter, Rianne. Her first name is Rianne. Sorry, I forgot. You know who she is, though, because I think she used to even work for the Modern Quilt Guild. But it was great. It was really interesting to see all the different types of quilting, and how they do stuff, how they look at stuff. And like for the long arm quilter, people asked, some people are intimidated to even send their quilt top to a long arm quilter. And I never even thought about that. I didn't think that was like a stressful thing, but I guess it is. And of course she's like, long arm quilters are just happy to help you finish your quilt. And they, they're not judgy. She says, I mean, that's what she's saying. And if they are, you would never know it, would you? So what do you care? That's my opinion on it. But yeah, she was really good. And so that was a really good panel. And there were a few others, but those kind of are the ones that stood out to me. All right. So the other parts of the show were the quilt show, and there was a vendor hall, and then there was a demo stage or whatever. So let's talk about the quilt show. The quilt show I thought was really unique, and it was very well done. I really liked the way they did it. You went into the button, you clicked on it for the quilt show, and then all of the quilts entered or accepted into the quilt show were on kind of like thumbnail pictures on one screen. And then you could scroll down, scroll across, and then you click on a quilt, and then another window comes up, and then you could click it to be really big so you could see the details of the stitching and the design. There was another photo for you to click on to see the back of the quilt. There was the description, just like you see in a regular quilt show, that little placard that gives you all the information of the quilter and their inspiration on making the quilt. Some of these had audio with it from the actual quilter, and they would talk about that quilt and how they made it and other interesting things. And that was really cool. I really enjoyed that. Very nice. And there were really nice quilts in the show. So yeah, that is my recap of my very first QuiltCon and QuiltCon 2021, the virtual show. Okay, and now we're going to talk about economics. Just kidding, but sort of. I just wanted to mention that there has been chatter going around about our quilting cottons price, the price of quilting cottons going up and going up like now. So, one of the people who explained it very well, and I will put a link to this in the show notes, but Scott Fortunoff, I think he's the CEO of Jaftex Corporation. This is the company who bought out Free Spirit Fabrics. And of course, that's the fabric company that prints and sells the Tula Pink fabrics, K Facette fabrics, I think Anna Maria Horner fabrics too. So you're familiar with those fabric lines. Well, he posted a couple of blog posts and was explaining how the price of goods were going up, and so that we should expect to see the prices going up. And he wrote this to consumers and to quilt shops owners. So anyway, there's a variety of components of economics that are involved with this, but the bottom line is, the prices are going up. And it's not just fabrics. We've gotten emails from our interior design vendors, and prices of furniture are going up. Everything's going up. And one of the big factors of it is the cost of freight and shipping. But anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there, and, don't panic. I think I see like a little bit of everything out there right now, but don't let, like the scaremongers scare you, because, we've been there before, and, we get through it. So, if ever a time to, utilize the principle of, make do, mend and make do, this will be a good time. And we've got a lot of fabrics on hand that we don't even realize that we do. So, like Sandra Johnson has really good classes about cutting up your denim, your old jeans and stuff, and you can make beautiful things from that. You can make beautiful quilts and so forth, and you can Boro mend them. So I just want to, just put that out there and just, let's just like not get all crazy about the prices going up, because I felt my blood pressure going up too as I was reading this article. And you just have to take a deep breath. Last week, lots of retailers do the President's Day sales. So I got a big roll of batting from Pellon, 80/20, 30 yards. And I jumped on it because I knew that, things are going up, and I'm so glad I did. And I got it. Joann's had it for 50% off plus an additional 20%. So it was a really, really great deal. So I'm just wanting to tell you to be on the lookout for sales like that. And when you see stuff like that, like a roll of batting, kind of jump on that, because the further we get into this year, I think we're going to be really like sticker shocked on how things are going up in prices. So I didn't want that to be like a downer. I mean, you still got to buy your Tula Pink fabrics, right? And your Robert Kaufman Essex linen, and support your local shops, of course. But you also have to look out for yourself, and you have to make smart purchases and what's right for you. So, I really don't like it when people shame people for the way they purchase things. So I just want you to, you got to do what you got to do with the budget that you've got. So that's my soapbox. I haven't done a soapbox in a while. All right, so we're wrapping things up here. I forgot to mention about, because I always talk about the weather. The weather is ever changing here in the Chicago area, but, we got hit with all of those like sub-zero temperatures and huge snowstorms. We got over 53 inches of snow this winter, most of it January and February. And last week, it just like the snap of a finger changed, and we have been getting like 40-degree temps this week, and I think this started like late last week, but it's crazy. So this is the part of the snow that I don't like. And when it started to get warm, people are just like celebrating, like, yeah, finally, let's get spring in here. But I'm like, I could have like really enjoyed the snow staying in its white, beautiful, fluffy state for at least another week or so, because or a gradual melt. But when you get like a 40-degree change in temperatures, then this drastic melt happens. There's like floods everywhere, and the snow gets all black and dirty and gross, and it's just, ugh. So that's my take on the snow thing here and the big melt. Not to say though that the 40-degree temps aren't bad. I mean, they're very nice, and the sun has been out, which is wonderful. I love sunny days. So that's where we've been at weather-wise. And I hear that Texas, its weather has been warming up and going back to normal. I have a brother that lives in it's like not the middle, but kind of like further south Texas. So they had to deal with snow as well. But then they just said, oh, it's 75 degrees out, and we're in shorts. So I'm glad that they're bouncing back, because that was really, it was a terrible thing, because, Texas is not equipped to handle snow like these our northern states are. We're very equipped to handle snow up here. We've got all the snow plows and the salt trucks and that sort of thing. But anyway, I'm glad that the weather is improving. So one last thing, is recommendation on what I'm watching. I don't really have that much because last week I was all into my QuiltCon classes day and night. That's all I was doing. So the only thing is, though, that when I have been sewing, I have had some kind of like background TV shows on. So I'll just give you a few of those that I've kind of had in the background. So Wicked Tuna started a brand new season, and it's very interesting because these guys who are normally sort of like enemies because it's all about the race to get the tuna, they now because they're in COVID times, they have to work together to keep their like industry alive. And it's pretty interesting. So I have that going on in the background while I'm sewing. And then PBS shows like America's National Parks. I was talking about national parks earlier today. See? So those are beautiful shows I have in the background. And The Aquarium is another show I really like watching, and that's the kind of stuff that you don't have to like have your eyes glued to the screen. You can just really kind of listen and look up when you hear something interesting. But The Aquarium is a really cool show too, because you get behind the scenes looks at aquariums like the Georgia's aquarium. I think it's in Atlanta, really big aquarium, and how they take care of the animals there. So that's kind of what I've been having in the background. In addition to podcasts, of course, and I was very happy to see a new podcast from Frances Dowell of the Off Kilter Quilt. So she posted a new episode this past week, and just kind of got a nice, good recap of her kind of journal style. I think she had even some recordings from back in November. So it's so good to catch up with her and hear her again. All right. I hope you have a beautiful weekend and that you enjoy some time to quilt, sew, craft, whatever it is that you plan to do this weekend. Enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Bye. The Make and Decorate podcast is produced, recorded, and edited by yours truly, Stephanie Socha. Visit my podcast page at makeanddecorate.com. If you would like a bonus episode every month, become a patron and support the Make and Decorate podcast show at my Patreon page, Make and Decorate.